During the transfer of some prisoners to a prison facility in Russia, the guards stop the truck at a gas station to refuel the tank. They then let the prisoners go outside for 5 minutes to relieve themselves, because they've been inside the truck for quite a while. When it's time to leave, the guards notice that one of the prisoners is missing. As they look around the gas station, one of them finds a man named Sergei Kravinov standing alone at the back. The guard thinks Sergei wants to escape and he jokes about how it's impossible because the wolves in the area will kill him. Just then, he takes Sergei back to the truck and they continue their journey to the prison. As they get there, Sergei is assigned to a cell with a cellmate named Mofo. Interestingly, Mofo doesn't like the idea of having a cellmate, but Sergei tells him not to worry, because he'll be gone in 3 days. Mofo doesn't get this, but he allows Sergei to go to his bed. The next day, while the inmates are in the yard, Sergei trains with a barbell, but 2 guys soon come over to tell him to leave the bench because it's in a private area. Sergei tells them to leave him alone, but they refuse to do this. As they try to press the weight on Sergei, he pushes them back and beats them up. Shortly after, while he's walking around the cell block, an inmate tells Sergei that his boss, Semyon, wants to see him. Sergei doesn't have a problem with this, and he goes into a nearby office to meet Semyon. As Semyon sees him, he asks if Sergei is the one who nearly killed his men. Semyon also asks if he knows who he is, and Sergei says he knows him to be a gangster whose guns have killed many people around the world. Semyon then asks who he is, and Sergei mentions that he's a hunter who hunts bad people. Semyon doesn't think Sergei is telling the truth, and he says that the vigilante called the hunter is a myth. Despite this, Semyon tells his men to lock the door just before he asks Sergei what his name is. Sergei says his name is Craven, but that he's sure Semyon won't tell anyone. As Semyon wonders what he means, Sergei kills him and his men before breaking out of the prison. The guards try to stop him, but Sergei appears to have superhuman physical abilities that allow him to crawl, jump, and run really fast. After he successfully escapes, he sees a plane waiting for him and boards it. Just as the plane takes off, his pilot asks how the mission went, and he says it was successful as always. During the flight, Sergei looks at a tarot card in his hand and remembers what happened to him when he was younger. 16 years ago, Sergei and his half-brother, Dmitry, are informed that their dad, Nikolai, is at their school to pick them up. The boys are shocked by this, but as they enter Nikolai's car, he tells them that Sergei's mom has killed herself. Sergei blames his dad for her death because he was the one who sent her away, but Nikolai says she was mentally ill. Dmitry then asks if they're headed to her funeral, but Nikolai says that people who take their own life don't deserve such honor. Sergei asks where he's taking them, and Nikolai mentions that there has been a recent sighting of a legendary lion named Tsar, and he wants to take the kids on a hunting trip because he believes it will help build them up as men. Elsewhere, in northern Tanzania, a girl named Calypso plays with her grandmother's tarot cards. Her grandmother tells her to put them away because her parents don't like seeing her with them, but Calypso says it's just a game. Her grandmother finds this surprising, and she then teaches Calypso how to draw out the cards and interpret them. As Calypso draws out 3 cards, her grandmother mentions that the last one, which shows a lion on it, implies that there's a great danger ahead. She then gives Calypso a potion that has been passed down in their family for generations. Calypso looks confused by this, but her grandmother tells her that the potion has the power to heal whoever drinks it in undreamed of ways. As she tells Calypso to keep it, she says that her granddaughter will know what to do with it when the time is right. A few days later, Nikolai starts hunting down animals in Tanzania. After he kills an antelope, he calls Sergei to come and touch the animal. As he does this, Nikolai tells Sergei never to fear death. He adds that the animals are merely prey, while humans are meant to be predators. He then stands up and insults Dmitry for looking weak. Later that night, Sergei apologizes to Dmitry for the way their father insulted him earlier. Dmitry says he's used to it already because he's Nikolai's illegitimate child, and he knows that his dad will never respect him like his older brother. Sergei tries to cheer him up, and he says that their dad will respect Dmitry one day. While Nikolai and his men sit outside their tent, they hear a strange sound coming from the woods. A scientist named Alexei asks if it's Tsar, but Nikolai doesn't think so. Alexei then asks if he has seen Tsar before, but Nikolai says he has only heard stories of how brutal the lion can be. As he keeps talking about how the lion has killed many people, a park ranger named Bahari mentions that there are legends about a man who can't be killed. Nikolai then reveals that his true intention is to kill Tsar, so he can be a legend. The next day, Nikolai and his men go hunting again, and his kids join them. Alexei then tells Nikolai that he has been thinking about proposing a potential partnership between them. Nikolai looks disgusted by this and says he can't do that with Alexei because he's a nobody. Alexei looks hurt by this, but he doesn't say anything. Shortly after, the men split up to find Tsar, but Sergei sticks with Dmitry, who says he hopes Nikolai finds the lion and becomes a legend, so that they won't have to come back again. Sergei doesn't seem to like the idea of hunting animals, and he says that he believes a legend is someone who fights fairly and without a gun. Suddenly, Tsar appears in front of them, and Sergei quickly tells Dmitry to hide behind him. Even though he initially points his gun at Tsar, he lowers it and stares at the lion. Interestingly, Tsar looks quite calm, but as Nikolai shoots him, he runs toward Sergei and grabs him with his teeth. Nikolai keeps shooting at Tsar, and the lion continues biting Sergei until he takes him away. Elsewhere, Calypso and her parents go to a nearby reserve to take pictures of some animals. Calypso keeps staring at the last tarot card she picked up from her grandmother's place, and after a while, she leaves her parents' truck. She then walks around and sees Tsar dropping Sergei on the ground before walking away. Calypso is shocked by this, but since this appears to be the scenario her grandmother likely talked about, she goes close to Sergei and sees that he's unconscious. Despite this, she pours the potion into his mouth, and this triggers a series of reactions that give Sergei some superhuman abilities, but Calypso doesn't seem to know this. After she calls for help, an ambulance arrives to take an unconscious Sergei to the hospital. Before the ambulance leaves, Calypso places the tarot card in his hand and steps back. Sergei is then taken to the hospital, but the doctors struggle to revive him. After he's pronounced dead, the heart rate monitor suddenly starts working again, and the nurse inside the room looks shocked. Shortly after, Sergei is taken to the general ward, and as he stares at the tarot card, a doctor comes in to tell him that he's very lucky to be alive. Sergei thanks her for saving him, but she says she didn't do anything. Sergei doesn't understand this, but the doctor says she's still going to run some more tests to figure out what happened. Almost immediately, Dmitry comes into the room and hugs Sergei. Nikolai also follows him, and the first thing he asks is why Sergei didn't shoot Tsar. Sergei just stares at him, and Nikolai says they're already leaving. The doctor says he needs to stay back to recover because he was dead for a few minutes, but Nikolai insists that they need to leave. When they get home, Sergei reads one of his mom's old letters, in which she tells him not to be like his dad. Almost immediately, Nikolai calls Sergei to come to his office. He then mentions that he doesn't want Sergei to be weak like his mother, because he's the one who will take over his business one day. After this, Nikolai shows him Tsar's head mounted on the wall in his office, and Sergei looks shocked. He then says that Tsar should have killed his father. Nikolai cannot believe this, and he pushes his son away, while asking what has come over him. Sergei then runs to his room and closes the door. As he sees a bird in front of his window, he stares at it for a while, before deciding to pack his bag, so he can leave the house. While he's packing his things, he sees the shirt he got injured in, and as he picks it up, Calypso's grandmother's potion bottle falls out of it. He looks shocked because he doesn't know what it is, but he keeps it in his bag. That night, Sergei sneaks out of the window to leave the house without being seen. Unfortunately, a part of the roof he's walking on breaks, but instead of falling badly, he maintains a strong stance on the ground, and this leaves him shocked. Just then, Dmitry sees him and asks where he's going, and he says he can't stay anymore. He then mentions that he's going to their mom's only property in Russia to live there. Dmitry looks disappointed by this, but he tells Sergei to leave if he wants. As he walks away, Sergei says he won't be gone forever. He then goes to the docks and boards a cargo ship to get to Russia. As he arrives and walks to his mom's land, he sees some bulls running toward him. He looks scared and doesn't know what to do, but surprisingly, the animals just run past him. One of them then stares at him before he walks away, and Sergei finds this strange. A while later, he discovers that his senses are heightened and that he also has super strength. One day, after he jumps over a giant hole, he hears a gunshot and uses his enhanced vision to see two men killing some bulls in the area to take their horns. He then goes to confront them, but as they try to attack him, he kills them, and at this moment, he decides to become Craven. In the present day, Craven gets off the plane and heads to his mom's old sanctuary, which he has renovated. As he gets inside, he falls on the bed and takes a nap. When he wakes up, he sees some men removing the horns from the bulls they just killed. Before they leave, he confronts them and asks why they killed the animals and took only their horns. The leader of the poaching team, Andre, says it's because they can, and Craven sounds disgusted to hear this. He then attacks one of the trucks and kills the men inside, but Andre escapes. When he returns to the city, he goes to the office of his boss, Mr. Tagland, to report what happened. Surprisingly, Andrei sees Craven in his boss's chair, and this leaves him confused. As he realizes that Craven is the hunter, he begs for his life. Despite this, Andrei gets killed because his name is on the list of poachers and bad guys that Craven is hunting down. Elsewhere, Calypso is now a lawyer in London, and she attends the funeral of a colleague who was recently killed for standing up to Semyon. After the funeral, Craven goes to meet her to share his condolences, but she doesn't know who he is. He then shows her the tarot card, and Calypso looks shocked because she thought he was dead. Craven says it was only for a few minutes, and as Calypso still looks confused, he asks about her friend's killer. Calypso says she's sure Semyon has something to do with it, but that it's unlikely anything will happen to him. Craven then tells her that he has already killed Semyon for her, and this leaves her shocked. Later that night, Calypso confirms that Semyon was killed in prison, and she realizes that Craven is the hunter. When they meet the next day, he says she's a really good investigative lawyer, and he could use her help in finding the bad men on his list. Calypso says she's a lawyer, and she's not supposed to do something like that. She adds that she knows his dad, and she's not sure if they're alike. Craven then mentions that even though he was supposed to be the heir to his father's business, he left home many years ago to start hunting men like Nikolai. Calypso asks if he lives in the city, and he says he doesn't. He adds that he only comes to London to check up on his brother once in a while, because he wasn't really there for him growing up. Calypso then says she'll think about his offer, and Craven looks happy about this. Elsewhere, Alexei is now a businessman in London, and while he's playing with his dog, his assistant tells him that Semyon has been killed in prison by the hunter. Alexei doesn't believe that the hunter is real, but his assistant says they must be careful because he has heard of the vigilantes list, which they're likely on. Alexei doesn't seem bothered by this, and he tells his assistant to set up a meeting with Semyon's top 3 agents. During the meeting, the men don't seem ready to deal with Alexei because they don't think he's serious. One of them also seems concerned that his nickname is the Rhino, but Alexei asks if they'd like to know why he's called that. Before they say anything, he disconnects the bag of fluids connected to his body and slowly starts changing into a rhino. The men don't understand what's happening, and one of them shoots Alexei. Even though he initially falls down, he stands back up and removes the bullet from his rhino skin. He then connects the fluids again and gets his snipers to kill the bodyguards at the scene. Following this, one of the agents kills his colleague and offers to work for Alexei. A while later, Nikolai sits at Dmitri's club and watches him perform a song to his guests. Alexei's new agent then walks into the club to see Nikolai, who doesn't know that he's now working for the rhino. Before they start talking business, Nikolai tells the agent about how Dmitri is like a chameleon because he can mimic people's voices. He then offers the agent a chance to work with him, and he accepts it immediately. Nikolai finds this strange, and as he realizes that something is wrong, the agent tells him that the rhino sends his greetings. Just then, someone tries to shoot Nikolai, but he uses the agent as a shield to protect himself. Nikolai's men eventually kill the assassin and her colleagues, and everyone runs out of the club. Nikolai can't believe what just happened, and as he sees Dmitri hiding under his piano, he tells him to get up. Dmitri then complains about how his club is scattered, but Nikolai sounds pissed that his son is a coward who couldn't even try to protect him. Elsewhere, Alexei's assistant gives him an update that the attempt to kill Nikolai has failed. Alexei looks disappointed and says that he knew it wouldn't be easy to kill Nikolai. Just then, his assistant mentions that someone slid a flash drive under his door. As Alexei checks what's on it, he sees a video from the prison in Russia, which shows that Sergei is Craven. He looks shocked by this, but he tells his assistant to inform a man named the Foreigner about the new development because he has also been looking for the hunter. Interestingly, the Foreigner happens to be an assassin who has the ability to hypnotize his targets to make it easier to kill them. While he's at the Russian prison, a guard asks what he's doing on the premises, and he says he wants to find the prisoner who killed Semyon. The guard says he's not supposed to be there, but the Foreigner then uses his powers to swiftly move to the man's back before killing him. Back in London, Craven goes to see Dmitri on his birthday. Dmitri looks happy to see his brother, and he gives him a suit to wear to his club for a birthday dinner he has organized. As they get there, Dmitri talks about what happened the previous day, and he mentions that he wants to be strong and fearless, so that their father will respect him. Craven says that their dad's respect shouldn't mean anything to him because he's a criminal, but Dmitri still insists that he doesn't want to be seen as a coward. Just then, Nikolai arrives at the club and says he couldn't miss the chance to see his 2 sons together. Craven doesn't look happy to see him, but he still shakes Nikolai's hand before he sits with them to have a drink to celebrate Dmitri's birthday. Shortly after, Dmitri gets drunk at the club, and Craven takes him back home. Before he falls asleep, Dmitri says he has forgiven his brother for leaving him alone many years ago, but Craven doesn't say anything. A while later, Craven struggles to sleep inside the room because of the noises coming from the vents. He then goes to a nearby garden to sleep. In the morning, Craven heads back to Dmitri's apartment but notices that the room is scattered and Dmitri is nowhere to be found. As he wonders what happened, he looks out of the window and sees Dmitri being pushed into a van at the bottom of the building. This gets him pissed and he runs to follow the van. Despite his attempts to stop the van and the plane that Dmitri is transferred into, the bad guys get away, and Craven looks disappointed. He then heads to Calypso's office to ask for her help in finding the person who took his brother. Calypso looks shocked to see him and says that she hasn't agreed to work with him yet, but he tells her that he needs to find Dmitri. As she asks if he remembers what the men looked like, Craven mentions that one of them had a scar under his left eye and he sounded Turkish. Calypso then says she'll speak to her contacts to see if they know anyone who matches his description. A while later, Craven goes to see Nikolai to ask what they'll do about Dmitri. Nikolai then mentions that the kidnappers already sent him one of Dmitri's fingers and they want him to pay a ransom. Craven tells him to pay it, but Nikolai says he can't do that because it will be a sign of weakness. Craven cannot believe this, but Nikolai mentions that Dmitri is as good as dead, regardless of whether he pays the ransom or not. Craven says he can't know that for sure, but Nikolai tells him that he would do the same thing if he captured the son of an enemy. Craven looks pissed at his dad and he just leaves the house. Shortly after, Calypso meets one of her contacts, who informs her that the man she's looking for is someone named Omer and he's holed up in a monastery in Ankara. As she leaves, it turns out that the foreigner actually got her informant to give her an address where Omer and his men will be waiting to kill Craven. After Calypso gives Craven the address, he heads to Turkey to find Omer. As he gets to the building, he kills some of the guards at the entrance and Omer realizes that Craven is around. Before he and his men can do anything, Craven beats them up and threatens to throw Omer out of the window if he doesn't tell him where to find Dmitri. Omer tells him not to do it and he also calls him Craven. This leaves Craven shocked because only a few people know the name, but he suddenly notices that someone is shooting a missile at the building. As it explodes, he and Omer fall down, but Craven still attacks him and asks who set him up. Omer says it's the rhino, and as he sees a huge rock about to fall on them, he says that they've both been killed by the evil man. Just then, the rock falls on them, and there appears to be no way to escape from it. Elsewhere, the foreigner gets to the monastery and sees that Craven killed one of the men with the toxins from crushed rosary peas. He then informs the rhino of what he found, and he looks happy that the mission was successful. After this, Alexei tells his men to uncuff Dmitri so that they walk around together. Dmitri asks if his dad has paid his ransom, but Alexei says that Nikolai will never pay any amount to save his illegitimate son. He then mentions that his plan was actually to kidnap Sergei, but his men found Dmitri instead. Dmitri wonders why he would want to kidnap Sergei, and Alexei shows him video evidence to confirm that he's Craven. Dmitri cannot believe this, but Alexei tells him about Craven's list and how he has gotten Craven killed because he doesn't want the hunter to get to him first. Back at the monastery, Alexei's men decide to take video evidence that Craven is dead, but he appears behind them and kills them. He then calls Calypso to tell her that the rhino set him up. He also warns her to leave her office and head to a nearby cargo terminal to get on a plane to Russia before the rhino sends his men to kill her. Back at the rhino's house, he shows Dmitri his fluids and talks about how he knew he would never impress Nikolai, so he kept looking for ways to get stronger. He then mentions that he eventually met a biochemist named Miles who was developing a procedure to increase human strength. He also agreed to be experimented on, and that's how he's able to transform into a rhino, even though the entire process is painful. He then tells Dmitri to work with him to take down Nikolai and Craven, but he says he'll never betray his family. As Alexei is about to kill him, his assistant mentions that he hasn't heard back from their men at the monastery. Alexei looks disappointed and says that Craven is probably still alive. Suddenly, they notice that the guards downstairs aren't responding to their radios anymore, and as they wonder if Craven is around, it turns out to be the foreigner who uses his powers to walk into the rhino's apartment. Alexei then realizes that the foreigner is the one who broke into his house, and he jokes about how he might just kill him one day. After a while, Alexei asks the foreigner why he's so interested in Craven, and and he says that the hunter killed his mentor. He adds that he has always believed Craven had no weaknesses until Alexei found Dmitri, as he says he's now thinking of ways to exploit that weakness. Alexei asks what he has in mind, and the foreigner tells him that they need to head to Russia to find Craven, because the toxins he used at the monastery are from indigenous plants in the country. Shortly after, Calypso gets to Russia with Craven's help, and he takes her to his sanctuary. While she's there, she sees the ingredients on the table and asks what he's trying to make. He then shows her the potion bottle he found in his shirt many years ago, and Calypso says it belonged to her grandmother. Craven says that the potion saved his life and he has been trying to figure out what was inside. As he asks if he can get more, Calypso says that she has no idea because her grandmother died a while ago. Meanwhile, the rhino arrives in Russia with the foreigner, who has developed a poison which he plans to use to kill Craven. He says that the poison will first bring on his darkest nightmares before paralyzing his vital organs, which will lead to his death. The rhino is impressed by this, and as they get close to Craven's sanctuary, he calls Craven to offer him a chance to work with him. Craven ends the call and picks up his weapons to prepare for when the rhino and his men arrive on his land. Shortly after, the rhino's men reach the woods, and Craven starts killing them. Unfortunately, the foreigner manages to shoot him with the poison, and Craven starts having hallucinations of his dead mom, while she complains about seeing invisible spiders. Craven fights this and tries to beat up the foreigner, but he's unable to do so, because the poison is quite effective. After Craven falls to the ground, the rhino's men see the foreigner about to kill him, so they head back to meet their boss. Before the foreigner pulls the trigger, though, Calypso shows up and shoots one of his eyes with her arrow. He instantly falls to his death, and as Calypso tries to revive Craven, she pours a potion into his mouth. This makes him conscious again, and he says he knew that Calypso still had more of the potion. She then mentions that she didn't give him because she wasn't sure she could trust him with her family's deepest legacy. Elsewhere, the rhino's men tell him that Craven is dead, and he looks happy about this. As they leave, though, they see some bulls running toward them. The bulls eventually knock down the trucks, and Alexei disconnects his fluid pipe to fully transform into the rhino. As Craven shows up, they start fighting each other, and the rhino appears to be very strong. Before he kills the hunter, Craven stabs the hole in his stomach, and he starts bleeding. As he gets weaker, Craven gets the bulls to run him over, and this leaves him powerless. Craven then asks who leaked his video to him, and the rhino says he can't believe that the hunter can't see what's right in front of him. Almost immediately, Dmitri shows up with a gun to shoot the rhino, but Craven tells him not to do it. Just before the rhino takes his last breath as he gets weaker, he tells Craven and Dmitri that he regrets meeting them and their father. A while later, Craven goes to meet Nikolai while he's hunting in northern Russia. Nikolai asks how he found him, and Craven says he's a good hunter. He then accuses his dad of sending the video to the rhino, and Nikolai confirms this. He says he did it because he knew that only Craven could help him kill the rhino before the evil man came for him. He then offers Craven the chance to let them work as father and son, but he says he's not interested because his dad is a bad man. As he walks away, he tells his dad to never fear death, just like he taught him. Nikolai sounds surprised by this, but before he realizes what's happening, a bear shows up out of nowhere and kills him. A year later, Craven goes to Dmitri's bar to celebrate his brother's birthday. As they sit together, Dmitri talks about how his experience with the rhino freed him and made him feel born again. He adds that he recently met a doctor who really helped him, and as Craven asks what he means, some of Nikolai's old associates come to the table to shake hands with Dmitri. Craven looks shocked and asks what's happening, and Dmitri says he's taking over their dad's business. Craven cannot believe this, and he says he didn't save Dmitri just to see him become like their father. Dmitri says that Craven was the one who got him into the mess in the first place, and that he's just like their father. Craven says he's different because he has a code he follows, but Dmitri thinks he's worse than their father. Before Craven says anything, Dmitri mentions that he knows what really happened to their dad, even though it was reported that he died during a hunting accident. He adds that despite the fact that Craven thinks he has a code, he's just another man who is hunting for a trophy. Dmitri then walks out of the bar, but Craven follows him. As he touches his brother, he sees that he can now shapeshift. Craven cannot believe this, and he asks Dmitri about the doctor he went to meet. Dmitri then says that he believes Craven wants him to be weak, so that he'll be the only one who is strong. He adds that he has always been a chameleon, and he's happy to now be free to do whatever he wants. He also mentions that with the rhino and their dad already dead, he plans to take over the entire business. Craven says he can't let him do that, but Dmitri just tells him to go home and see what Nikolai left for him. After Dmitri walks away, Craven goes home and sees a letter Nikolai left him, along with a vest made with Tsar's fur. In the letter, Nikolai tells Craven to embrace who he really is. He adds that they're very much alike, and they're the greatest hunters the world has ever known. Just then, Craven puts on the vest and sits on a chair while looking at himself in a mirror. After drinking a potion that gave him superpowers, Craven began hunting down all the bad men who engaged in poaching or illegal hunting. He also didn't forget what Nikolai did to Tsar, and he made sure that his father got killed by a bear. Unfortunately, though, Craven now has to go up against his brother, who not only took over their father's business, but is also now a villain called the Chameleon. But do you think Craven will have to kill his brother, or will he be able to save Dmitri before he becomes like their father?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.